YouTube? This is Shirley426, and today we have the review of the 1 to 100 scale, according to the box, the Metal Gear Rex from the game Metal Gear Solid, made by Kotobukiya. Now, once again, this is going to be a very interesting review, even for me as well, because once again, I have reviewed some Kotobukiya kits, and I have built some other kits back in the past, which I haven't reviewed it at this point still, but this is going to be a very interesting review for me as well. Now, first of all, right off the bat, I'm going to apologize because I haven't really finished or played the game properly of Metal Gear Solid. I still have my PlayStation 1 at my parents' house with the CD of it. But once again, I was a kid at the time. The game was very complicated for me, so I wasn't able to really properly play it. But now I think I'm ready for that game, so maybe in the future I'll play it and figure out what the heck I'm reviewing at this point. So I am vaguely aware of what this is. It's supposed to be like a superpower weapon, a tank, a bipedal tank type weapon going on here. It has a railgun, it has radars, it has all sorts of missiles and such. So yeah. So the kit. Now this kit, the build is going to be you're going to need a lot more concentration and be more focused while building this compared to building a Gunpla, because there are parts that are just so stiff. You have to make sure everything fits properly. And there are also parts that are very fragile at the same time, so which I have broke a few parts while building this, but luckily they weren't very essential parts, so yeah, I can manage. Alright, so now let's get on to the review. So first of all, we're going to go over articulation, but I'm going to be very careful as usual, and then because there are going to be parts that are going to be falling out and such, and there is no technical way to fully show you guys properly on a certain format without the action base, so just be aware of that. Alright, so before the articulation, let's go over components as usual. So first of all, what you get, of course, is obviously the main unit itself, the Metal Gear Rex. I keep trying to say Raid, but yeah, there is a Metal Gear Raid kit as far as I know, and then I believe there's another one for the most recent game, the Phantom Pain version one, so yeah. Or unless that was a figure that I misread, but still. Alright, other than that, you get some leftover pieces. You do get some polycaps. Now, these polycaps are much thicker than your typical Gunpla ones, so make sure you're using the correct one, and make sure you cut off all the unnecessary parts, and make sure you make sure when you connect these two parts, make sure they're actually connected, because yeah, polycaps are the most easiest parts that you can actually make mistakes on when you're connecting parts, so yeah. And then you do get some small figures. I can see there's a Solid Snake, and then I believe this guy was, what was his name, Gray Fox or something. I remember this guy was like a Cyclops Cyber Ninja type of character in the game I played, and I believe he, according to rumors that, now I wasn't sure at the time, but he also reads your memory card on your PlayStation 1, which is kind of creepy, but yeah. So you get two variants of this guy figure. You get his full-fledged version, and one seems to be missing an arm, yeah. And you get his action base. I think they could have made this a little bit bigger, but yeah, in order to make this guy go fully bipedal, you need this action base, to be fair. You do get a connector here, but there is another extra connector to use if you want to connect the action base into the middle. This is the part we use. So for now, we're just going to leave this guy out. Alright, so now showing the articulation is going to be very tricky, because I don't want to break anything, and because I'm going to be very careful, and there's going to be parts falling out multiple times, just giving you guys that warning. So if you don't mind certain parts not moving, or just worried about it in general, I say you could glue a few stuff on. So yeah. So just to give you guys an idea regarding the size or bulk of this guy, now as I mentioned, according to the box and manual, this guy is 1 to 100 scale. So here is next to a 1 to 144 scale HG Gunpla kit. You can see height wise it's kind of similar, but it's all overall the bulk that you should be considerate about. So this kit is not cheap. It goes roughly about $70 to $100 as far as I know. I happen to got a reissue version, so yeah. And I know there's another color variant, a darker color variant going on there, so yeah. Alright, so showing the articulation is going to be very tricky. So let's start with the head. I think that's the more proper way to start, because once again, a very uncommon format for me. So there's a few parts I would like to mention. Some parts, they have these pre-painted areas, like this one here. This blue section here, as you can see, there were no stickers or decal sheets. So this blue section you see right over here was actually pre-colored. So there are some parts I believe there's 2 or 3 more parts that were had this kind of pre-colored blue part. And then there's also these golden parts that were just, you know, a gold-plated part like here, or copper color to be more specific. So the head actually works pretty well. So it can go down that much just on its own, and then you can go upwards a little bit more for the neck joint. Now for the head itself, now connecting the head is going to be very, very tricky because there's a plastic piece there. You have to connect it to a peg, but that piece is going to be working as a neck joint, so which is why it's constantly moving. So connecting it is going to be very annoying, but it works. So as looking at the front, the head can, let me just back up a bit. So because of this bulk, it's actually taking a lot of space on my, you know, filming area. So and then there's just so much stuff. My camera is having so much hard time focusing. So looking at the front, and there goes another part falling off. I'll tell you guys later. So you can head tilt side to side like that. The head itself can go downwards pretty well, upwards not that much as well. And as expected, you can open up this section to reveal the pilot seat going on here. I'm going to assume that's I'm not too sure. I'm going to assume that's Solid Snake when he was young, but doesn't look like that as well. The pilot figurine seems a little bit off. Now mine came with a defective part where there's a part in the cockpit area and there's a small piece that kind of that was about to snap. So, but luckily it wasn't a huge important piece, so that was fine. And then just to give you guys an idea, there's these small clear pieces. Like they actually did a really good job on like certain details. And I dropped my God. All right, sorry about that. So there's these small like clear pieces over here. So they did consider a lot on the details going on here. So these parts, there are small clear pieces as well. All right, so and one thing I don't understand is I understand this is the cockpit area, but I seen some videos where the Metal Gear Rex would actually like cry out like a dinosaur, and the mouth would actually open up, revealing the pilot seat, which I don't think that's a really good thing. But yeah. Okay, so now we've seen that. So the overall build is going to be very interesting. So they make you start building the legs. So the instruction manuals like gives you orders on which way to make them. So they start with the legs, and then the head, and then the back section right over here, and then the main area that connects everything. So it was a very interesting build. Regarding the legs, let's go with the legs first. So the legs are going to be the parts that has like the most moving parts, I think, or that would be the most proper way to saying. Now you can see these areas, these are like, I believe these are like smoke bombs or smoke grenades. These parts are going to fall off extremely often. So for now, just to avoid risking any losing parts, I'm just going to take them off. So the legs, there's like multiple components. So there's the top and bottom component right over here. So the bottom component can also rotate around because it is connected on a peg. And then what you can do is that you can also extend this. So this is the way how you're supposed to make it go bipedal. However, without the action base, it's going to be extremely difficult to balance this guy. So for now, I'm just going to mention that you can extend this, and you have this back heel. In this form, this back heel is essential. So make sure you do that. So, and there's another form where he goes like all flat on the ground. So this is when you actually fold this like all the way downwards like that. So, but since we're not doing that, I'll show you guys that later. And then we have these parts which look like pile drivers, but as far as I know, these are supposed to be like anchors onto the ground. So they fall off a little bit too easily. So as you can see, I just pulled it and it just fell off. So these are one of the parts which I suggest you glue on, and this part is connected to a very small peg. So once again, I think you can just glue this on as well. And then there's these feet area which do have a little bit of movement. So these are where it's going to be touching the ground. So make sure you like angle them properly. So that they're actually touching the ground properly, so they can go forward and backward, and I believe they do have a little bit of wiggle side to side movement as well. All right, and then the leg itself here, and also we have this ball jointed area here, and that has an armor, and then you can also open these section up to reveal missile launchers. So there's 3 here, so they're very tricky to open. So I'm just going to mention a few to open. There we go. So there's 3 you can open. So this one is not trying to open up easily. Let me just try that one more time. Yeah, there we go. So you can open up these missile launchers. So the same goes for the other leg as well. So yeah, that's a pretty cool detail if you ask me. And then now for the leg articulation itself. So if you can extend this part out, as you can see, this part can only move side to side even though it was extended. But the main connection here are ball joints. So you can see between the main body and then the leg, you can see there's a joint here. This part is also going to fall off a little bit easily. So they are connected to ball joints. So you can technically go backwards and forwards. However, make sure the ball joint connection is okay, because it's just a little too stiff to the point where I'm actually worried that I'm gonna snap it off. Because there are ball joints where you can accidentally snap it off while rotating a piece, which you think you're doing it okay, but it's actually you're just snapping it. So you're just twisting and rotating it forcefully. So just be careful when you're building this. A lot of pieces are very stiff. All right, I think the only thing that's left is the back. So the back has all the weapons. I believe this is a railgun. We have this giant radar. This thing can also go forward and backward as well. So no big deal regarding that. And once again, on the back here, we have multiple missile launchers right over here. So there's a lot of like pieces that you're going to need to do some extra like panel lining here, and this part just fell off. I'm just going to leave it here. So you can also open the other section as well. You're going to need to do some panel lining here as well. And then the radar and the railgun can also have some connections here. So this main white connection here that's connected to the main backpack here is also connected to a ball joint. So only this section is a ball, and this is just a regular joint. So you can go forward and backward like that, and then you can kind of twist it a little bit, not 360 because there's not enough like clearance regarding that. And this thing itself can also move side to side like that. And there's a lot of like extra details going on here. Now for the railgun, it's kind of the same principle, I believe. So once again, this section is a ball joint. This section is also a ball joint. So make sure you're not like forcing anything to do so. So yeah, there we go. Okay, so once again, because of it being a ball joint on both ends, you can go forward and backward like that, and moving up, going 360 should be possible. But once again, make sure you know your way around. And then, yeah, nothing for the cannon. I was very surprised on how many pieces this thing is. Like for Bandai standards, this would be a very simple build, but this like takes like a whole plate going on here just to build this cannon. So it was very, interesting. All right, so we've seen the basics of the kit. So the articulation may seem limited, but at the same time, if you've seen this in the game, or if you see when you think about it, it's a very like superpower weapon, but at the same time, it's a very practical design, if you ask me. I mean, I can see like a military group doing this in the future as well. So I say this is more possible or more realistic compared to a mobile suit. So I'll give kudos to that design. All right, so I think we've seen the basis of the articulation here. So this thing does have a lot of like parts that fall off because it's just they don't connect too properly as well. So I suggest you do glue on some stuff. So okay, I'll be right back with the action base, and let's see what other forms this thing has. Okay, I'm back. So I was fiddling around with this kit for about 3 to 5 minutes, hoping to see if this could stand on its own on its bipedal form, and apparently not. The best way I can think about is that you stretch out the legs and then you like slam this guy back to the wall, hopefully that it clings on, and hope for the best. But apparently there's no practical way to actually make this guy stand on its own other than the previous form I showed you guys, where you fold up the legs and then you get the back heels or high heels like onto the ground. Now I guess you could like technically work your way around to make this go all the way down, but still, even in this form, you can see it's not actually reaching to the ground. So yeah, I think the only way you're going to actually display this guy with his legs fully extended is with this action base. So yeah. And I would like to mention that like despite how much time or effort you put in while building this, compared to actually like the amount of moving parts you get, it's kind of interesting. Like compared to Gunpla, you have all these moving parts as well. This thing is actually, well, compared to its size, like for example, the legs may feel a little bit disappointing because all you can do is extend and then rotate the side to side. That's pretty much it. But once again, it may feel a little bit lacking in terms of articulation, but when you think about, but you have to consider that this thing is not a Gundam. This is not a mobile suit. This is like supposed to be a more practical looking war machine kind of thing. So yeah, I kind of see what they were going for. So and yeah, I'm not bashing this. I actually really had fun building this, although it did eat up a lot of stamina while building it. Alright, so yeah, I think there's only one form left to show you guys, and that's the overall like folded up form, and when this thing is fully on the ground. So yeah, but before I go back to that, so once again, make sure like all these parts, if you don't like these parts falling off, make sure you actually glue them on. And this thing is going to require a lot of painting, because according to the manual on the back section, Well, currently mine, you can see it's all fully gray, but if you look at the manual here, it seems like this is supposed to be like a green camel color thing going on. So, and this thing does not give you any water slides or decals, so you're gonna need to do a lot of coloring here. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it, so I'll be right back with the last form that I saw in the manual, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So here is that form I was talking about. Once again, all the things that in the manual is in Japanese, so I wasn't sure what they were referring to, but this is the, I'm assuming this is like the standby mode, or when the mode that when you put this thing in the hangar, so that the pilots can actually reach through the cockpit. So yeah. Once again, the overall build was very complicated. It takes a lot of time and energy, but still, the overall results, I'm very satisfied. Now, make sure, like, although I would like to constantly mention that this is not from Bandai. This is not a Gunpla kit. So this is actually an entirely different company. This is an entirely different concept of a mech. So do not, purchase this thinking of, oh, it's gonna have amazing articulation like Gunpla, like a Masquerade. No, that's not the case. This is supposed to be a more practical war machine kind of design going on here. So they made a bipedal tank. That's the best way I can mention this. So yeah, the articulation, especially on the legs, there's not much articulation when you think about it, other than the extension points, the side to side movement, and then the main joints that connects to the body. There's no arms, to be more specific, and the weapons on the back, they have, amount of movement that's just enough. So yeah, but once again, the amount of part that goes into each part, the legs, the head, the back, the railgun, they're just astounding. So which is why it takes a lot of time building. It requires a lot of focus and energy. So just because you built a few HG kits, I can't really recommend that you should go for this one right off the bat. And once again, there are some parts that are very fragile. I actually broke a few parts, but still works. So just be careful about that as well. Anyway, thank you for watching the review. This was the review of the Metal Gear Rex made by Kotobukiya into 1/1 scale. If you guys got any questions or requests, in the comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews of. So please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.